Afternoon. First of all, I think this goes into our 10th spring. So some things change, some things do not as we move through the process. I think spring ball basically is, sort of the next beginning, the next phase for us. Obviously we go through finish recruiting after bowl games and such, and then into winter conditioning. But this is, I think, the first opportunity we have a chance to sort of see where we're at as a football team. Watch our players, especially watch our young players as they've had an extra year our freshmen, and they had an extra year to redshirt and see how they come out of situations. So it will be very exciting for us. Again, we'll have our spring game this year. You guys have the dates on that. We'll have a spring student clinic. Youth clinic will be before the spring game as well. That attracted almost 2,000 people last year, 2,000 young people. So very busy time for us. I think every spring brings forth a set of goals for us that really they don't change. Probably pretty much the same that we've always been. We want to try and get 3% better as a player, as a program. I think every single practice. That's sort of inbred in us, I think, as a program. What my college coach told me to do as a player way back. So we'll continue to do those things. I think if you can do that for 15 practices, you get significantly better. I think that's what we've sort of measured ourselves against that. We got to address our needs and concerns. Obviously, you have certain concerns that are inherent to any football team. In other areas, you just have basic losses, guys who have graduated. So you guys know the positions that we're dealing with, so you can take some questions with that in a little bit here. Experiment with position change, experiment new concepts. Mentioned our young players' experience, give our young players experience. We've got 7 new freshmen that are coming in the door. It's going to be important for them to play and participate throughout spring, be 15 of 15. So we'll look forward to our guys completing 15 of 15 practices. That's the goal as well. But I think our young players, especially our rookies, are going to benefit as much as most due to their lack of performance against college players. Playing in a scrimmage, spring scrimmage with 50,000 people or so there, so all those type of things. Fundamentally, want to get better fundamentally, address all the different concepts, new concepts, and tweaks defensively, offensively, and special teams. And then obviously we want to stay healthy and keep our attrition rate low in terms of who's practicing every day. And then I guess the final goal would be back-to-back. And by that, I mean win back-to-back championships as we go towards this next phase. So I'll take some questions and go from there. Yeah.
Mark, what is your expectation of the quarterback contest coming toward the end of spring practice? Do you hope that started by then, or just kind of see how you guys compete and come into ball game?
Well, I think we have 4 quarterbacks. Obviously, we have 2 guys with more experience, and Tyler O'Connor will go in as the leader at that situation. But that's going to bear out over August camp, and really, I think over the first couple games. We'll see how everybody performs. But we're going to give everybody opportunities. Siah Weaver is one of those rookies. Brian Lewerke is one of those guys who redshirted. And I think you'll see a much more experienced quarterback. Damian Terry is going in his 4th year, and then obviously Tyler O'Connor is going into his 5th year. So we've got a lot of different levels of experience there, but with that, I think it'll be an exciting quarterback race, and we expect great performance there. You got to play, though, in the games and be consistent, be a playmaker.
You haven't had this situation since 2013. What did you learn during that time, both at this time of year, and how you're going to apply it to this?
Really, what do you learn? I mean, you look at 2013, we had no quarterback situation really in place after 12. I mean, we had some guys experienced, but we had competition, I guess is what I would say. We go to the Rose Bowl. You look at this last year, we lose 3 players in summer camp that some may think are 3 of our better players, in R.J. Williamson, Deontay Copeland, and Ed Davis, and yet we win a championship. So we had numerous injuries this year, overcame those. So it's a crapshoot. I'd say that. I'd say it's pretty much a crapshoot. So spring is to figure out who's who. That's why we're not opening up to the press. Early on, I think that it's important for guys to get their feet on the ground, let them go through the process a little bit, let us evaluate our players a little bit, and then next week we'll open it up a little bit, have a little bit more clarification on where we're at.
Mark, you had a few guys coming off fairly significant injuries, Copeland, Davis, Finley. Are they good to go right out of the gate here in spring, or are some of them kind of working back in over the next few weeks? Or
I think especially Ed Davis is working back in, Dennis Finley as well. Beyonce looks pretty good. Has gone through all of our winter conditioning program. I think that's why we just put it on there like that, because we don't like to talk about injuries too much.
Mark, looking at the offensive backfield, Delton Williams to fullback, I'm just wondering, was that something you thought about for a while, even maybe last year a little bit for him, maybe something for his future? And then also Drake Martinez moving to tailback.
Yeah, we have 3 tailbacks with experience, obviously 4 really when you count Delton. Delton's a good football player. He's a big guy. I think he can make that transition to the F, and we'll see how that works out. But I think he's a football player. I think we have to give him the opportunity to show that. He demonstrated that his first 2 years, and so this is where we're at right now. Doesn't mean he does not play tailback, just means that he has an extra opportunity there. Drake Martinez has been a guy that he's a good football player. He's been hampered a little bit by injuries, but I think he's got great speed, and he's played, you saw him play a lot of different positions in high school and in junior college, so we wanted to try him in that area. Yeah.
Mark, 2 questions. First of all, has Delton been returned to being on scholarship?
Delton will go back on scholarship in the summer, and I appreciate you asking me these one at a time.
Okay.
It's a good lesson out there for everybody else. Go ahead, second question.
Okay, good. Second of all, Mark, when you talked about a 6-year for Ed Davis, the way I understand the NCAA rule, cannot be applied for until he's graduated.
Correct.
So would that be a later summer decision just because of his graduation schedule?
He's on track to graduate probably by either this semester or early in the summer. So he's on track for that. So he's on track. That's all I can tell you. I think he'll make that.
You got Brian and Cody both at the center position. Is that trying to get the best 5 guys out there? Is that how that competition plays out? Or
We've always used multiple players at center. I think that we need to train a guy into that position as well. Cody has a tremendous amount of experience, and so we felt like that's a position that he could possibly play. So we'll experiment with that position, move a little bit, and then also Brian Allen play guard as well.
Yeah, Coach, Craig Evans and Montez Sweat, last time we talked, I think Sweat was in limbo. Are these both of these
There's
guys?
a limbo position.
Yeah, are these guys both reinstated in good standing now?
They're both participating in spring practice, so yes.
to see Malik walking around at Pro Day last week. Is he fully healthy?
I'm sorry?
Ready to go? Malik McDowell, is he
Yeah.
fully healthy and able to go this spring?
Yeah, I'm not talking about injuries, but he'll go this spring.
Offensive line question, Mark. For you, there's so many intricacies about that. I mean, it's almost like a beautiful ballet when an offensive line works together in harmony. How much do you, or how quickly would you like to find that starting five so they can get some continuity together?
You know, really the last 3 years, we've used about 8 guys. So it's been a situation where, and I think Coach Staten has done a great job with this, getting guys, different guys' experience to be able to play 8 guys and move them really in and out of games like that. And that's benefited us, I think, when we've had injuries, we've been able to plug in a guy that has quite significant game experience. So I think we'll still maintain that approach. I think we have those numbers. That's been a good thing for us. So guys like Tyler Higbee, some of our younger players, Cole Chewins, those guys are redshirt freshmen. Noah Listerman, redshirt freshman. Those type of guys are to see how they've come. But it's early, in the spring. But I do think that some of those guys have a big upside. David Beadle moved over there, was a redshirt freshman last year. I think that's going to pay dividends. You know, Clemens is back for his 6th year. So we've got different pieces in there that we can move people around with game experience. And then also, I just think it benefits us to have 8 moving around. So I don't think 5 anymore is the perfect answer for us. I think 8 more is like it.
Mark, I know you said experimenting with position changes. When you look at this depth chart, a lot of guys look different from the last time we saw. Are a lot of these just that, experiments where they could go back fairly easily, or are all of them kind of a thought that this could be something? Yeah.
It's just
I guess how much of it is a puzzle and you figure out, you know?
I think they're experiments, and then also I think that we're trying to put people in positions, the best positions for them to play. That's number one. Number two, we're going to try and promote growth and stretch people. So I know where Cody Keeler can play. I know where certain players can play. So we need to stretch them and see, can they play at these other different positions as we move forward. So I'm just an example. So that's what we tend to do in the spring. That doesn't mean, is it a week or is it a couple days? Is it an entire month-long situation? So we got to figure that out as we go. But we do want to try and expand our players' knowledge, and the best way to do that is to work them at other positions sometimes.
You mentioned tweaks. Mark, can you give us any more on what kind of things you might be adding or changing on either side of the ball?
No, not really. You know, I think that what we've done is we've had a lot of time to really digest what we've done. We've done a great job, I think, our offensive, defensive, and our special teams groups. We've really taken what we've done and really analyzed it to the best of our abilities, but we've taken our time doing that and looked at it very objectively in all areas. And we won 12 games last year, and, you know, we've been pretty successful here as of late. So, but I think you can always get better. So we look at the areas where we're deficient conceptually and try and improve those areas. Or some things where we've not been, you know, some things we've not done, and we try go there with that aspect as well. So without really saying what we're doing, yeah, we're trying to change for the good. Some. Not significant. I think significant would be a mistake.
Last season, you talked a lot about the senior class and maybe the greatest senior class you've had. Certainly it's the winningest. I guess the flip side is that puts you in position for perhaps your biggest rebuild. Can you talk about how this team may look different, you know, what you expect to change? I know there is not maybe scheme, but as far as maybe the look of the team, the personality and such.
Yeah, you know, I think every college football team goes through cycles where people come and they move through the process. I think wide receiver is a position that you look at and say, wow, they're going to have some new young players there. So, you know, it's important that position, you know, that we move in that area and find out what those guys can do. Cam Chambers, Donnie Corley, certainly, and then also, you know, you've got some other guys like Monty Medeiros who he needs to have a great senior year. Some different people like that. Obviously, R.J. Shelton's established. Felton Davis is the guy that had I think, even though you really didn't see him till the end of the year, he was very impressive throughout the year as a true freshman. And I think you'll see great things from him. So I think I mentioned 5 guys there. So Darrell Stewart's another young player that you got to look at as he moves forward. Got some other guys who are a very steady player. Barksdale, Maxud, Sowards is a guy that has shown his positive aspects there as well. So, but that's just one position. So I think you're right. We had a great senior class. You need to have your best senior year. If you want to have a great football team, you've got to have your best senior year ever. I really feel like that. I think the last 3 senior classes may have done that. Remains to be seen if this class will or not, but I think there's some great integral parts there, especially when you look at Knox, Clemens, Ed Davis coming back from that senior class, and all 3 of those guys are good football players. So there's a nucleus there, and that'll help solidify situations. Obviously, we've got a new quarterback situation, but we got a 5th-year quarterback in there with another 4th-year guy with 2 promising freshmen. So, yeah, there are things that are going to change. There's a look that's going to change, but I do think that's the challenge of college football, being able to be consistent and play consistently. And I think we've tried to meet that challenge year in and year out, as evidenced by, the amount of wins over 6 years or 9 years or 3 years. Of course, we're picking the good stats, okay? But I think that's natural.
Mark, I noticed that no long snapper on there, just kind of where you're at with that right now for the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then also kind of speaking on the special teams, where Jalen Watts-Jackson is health-wise headed towards us.
Yeah, we don't talk much about injuries, okay? But he's participating to some degree. And then as far as our long snapper, we had 2 long snappers come in at mid-year. One is when I say rookie, that means they're in their first semester. One's a rookie. The other one will be a redshirt freshman. Dylan Chimura also has long snapped, as well as Cole Chewins. So we've got guys in-house that have done this, but they have not done it at game time. And we're going to miss, Tabor Pepper. He did a great job for 4 years.
Again, 2 questions. Mark, you can from time to time be a glass half empty guy, although you don't like to go there. You can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you look at all of your losses, do you need to remember in context that,
A few of those losses?
not losses on the field, but player losses going into spring, that other teams lost a lot of great players too, and it isn't like you haven't been recruiting. How much do you need to remind yourself this time of year when you look at what you lost that the glass isn't half empty?
I think you always do that, especially when you watch Pro Day last week. You see the guys that are leaving. You see the amount of success that they've had. You see a guy like Burbage catching the ball or Cook throwing the ball and the defensive line. You see all of it. So you understand, as I said last week, there's a reason we've won. We've had great players here, but that should continue. We've recruited at a high level. We've got an influx of good players coming in here, and all they need is growth and experience, and sometimes that comes painfully, I guess, but we'll get there, and I think we have the makings of a very good football team.
And with the struggles with special teams last year, do you expect to maybe spend some more time on it this spring?
We'll spend a lot of time on special teams, as we always do, but really when you look at our special teams, we have 38 players back who've played on special teams. So we got a ton of players back on special teams, whether that have run down, on punts, kicks, whatever it is. And again, some of the tweaks and things changing conceptually may have to occur there. But we're going to evaluate everything top to bottom.
Mark, is Reschke staying at Money or Sam? I know when Davis comes back, Mark Snyder mentioned there may be one of them may be looked at the star. Which one of them would that be?
I think Reschke would be a guy that would probably move out there faster than Ed, although Ed has the athletic ability to play out there as well. So I'm not sure which. But if you really look at our football team, linebacker is a position of strength right now. If you look at us in the secondary from an experience standpoint, when you bring back Copeland, Monte Nicholson, Cox, Darian Hicks, Tyson Smith's played. Josh Butler's going to be a good player. You got Grayson Miller and Kari Willis back. Matt Morrissey's played. I think David Dowell's going to be an excellent player for us, excellent player. Jalen Watts-Jackson was really doing some great things at the very beginning. I mean, those guys are all viable football players. They show up on special teams. They've all played for us, with the exception of David Dowell. I think every one of those guys have played. So that's a position of strength for us. And then you go to the front, and we've got some good players up there. So, I think that I can't remember the question we asked, but I think that he may. He can play. I think he can play any of the 3. He's pretty versatile.
Mark, I remember after the Cotton Bowl, not long after it, you said your wife was telling you to quit watching the thing and get over it. And a few weeks ago in Grand Rapids, that was still kind of a work in progress for you. Has this time off finally gotten you way past it? And any advice for Tom over there on getting past one of those shockers that you're having trouble with?
Coach Izzo really is the face of Michigan State athletics for the last 20 years. He really is. And the amount of impact that he's had on people has obviously been very significant. So, I think coaches are judged in a couple of ways. They're judged by their players. Do you make them better? And do you make them better players? Do you make them better people? And I think that they're also judged by their peers. What kind of longevity do you have? What kind of success do you have? How do you run your program? And at the end of it all, you win, you lose. And, obviously losses are tough to stomach sometimes, but I don't think it in any way, what's the word I want to use, defines that program. So, it's tough to deal with. It's tough to deal with. But, sometimes things create even make you, sometimes things happen make you stronger, I think. So everybody learns, everybody grows. But that's all I would say about that.
Will you be going live with your quarterbacks this spring?
Depends how good they play.
What do you get out of when they go live? Or what are the pluses and minuses?
Well, I think the pluses are you get to see them with true results at the end of a play. I think the negative is obviously you get a guy hurt. But I do think that you have to see them play in a competitive situation to find out can they make plays under duress. So at some point in time, you try and create that without getting them hurt. If that can't be created, then we'll turn them loose. That's what we've done in the past.
When was the last time you went live in spring?
I think it was last spring.
Looking at the depth chart, you have Andrew Dowell. He's projected currently as a starter. I know there's talk about moving people around, but what does that say about Andrew Dowell? I mean, that wasn't even a position of need last year, a guy that looked like he'd be redshirted on paper. I mean, what is it about this guy that's not only had him play as a true freshman when you didn't really need him to, but also has him projected as a number one linebacker?
I think Andrew is a doer, first of all. He's a guy that comes to work every single day. He's extremely goal-oriented as a person, and I think that carries over in his football life. He has great shock. He's the ability to shock you. He played in the secondary at Lakewood St. Ed's in the same type of defense that we play. So, that transition to star backer was maybe easier, especially the terminology was maybe easier. Probably more terminology here, but there was some similarities. So that gave him a big upside, and then he runs and tackles. And he's a guy that from day one when we put the pads on, you noticed him. So when Ed was injured, that obviously thrust him up a little bit, but he had an outstanding summer camp last year where he sort of fell back a little bit was change every single week, changing to play a different type of offense. So, but when he knows what he's doing, and he can get there very fast, and he's a fast, physical guy that I think will be a tremendous player for us.
Time for two more.
Mark, one of the drawbacks of a loaded roster with talent is you have guys who have to wait their turn, whereas maybe when you first got here, guys who sit now would play. How much do you use a Joel O'Keefe, who 2 years ago at this time wasn't even seeing the field, and now he's played himself into the NFL as an example to guys? You can change position, things can happen, but good things happen to guys that work hard.
Well, I think he's a great example, a guy that stayed positive, a guy that really developed in the weight room. He came here as a 240-pound guy playing defensive end, made the transition to defensive tackle, now he's over 300 pounds and, benching 400, whatever. So I think he's transitioned his body, and usually when you're playing a big, a defensive line position, an offensive line position, it's going to take you a little bit of time to transition physically. So I think we've seen that happen, and we've seen that happen countless times really in our time here with our players. And Ken Manning, who was the strength coach of the year incidentally, does a great job with their players, and they work. Our players come here and they work. And I think they're probably as big as anything, the key to our success here has been our chemistry and our work ethic.
Mark, you mentioned earlier that Viante Copeland has looked good lately. Could you talk about what you saw in him prior to the injury and what you've seen in him this winter that makes you say that he's looked good?
I think, first of all, prior to the injury, he's a quick-bodied guy, great ball skills, great tackler in space. I thought he had a great first game against Western, and then was playing in the game against Oregon. But and then what I've seen him, I think he looks quicker, faster, very under control, very balanced, and that's what he's demonstrated throughout winter conditioning.
Coach, you want to close with one more thing?
Yeah. One last thing, I want to thank Joe for all his Joe Rexroad for all his meaningful commentating over these last number of years. You've been great to work with, very fair, very professional in what you've done. I want to wish you the best down in Nashville, and all the best to you. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys.